So as a quick reminder, what we covered in the last part was the 1970s change, or the world change actually, from socialism to capitalism. And the reason that's so important is because the world changed and shifted to a 401k or pension plans is because it forced many people who were E's and S's to become investors. Like I said, my poor dad was a very smart, good man, but he was a non-investor. There's people who are passive investors, and that's what most people are. They go to their company, they just put in their 401k, and they hope and pray that person managing their money is smarter than they are. And the third type is the active investor. Now, if you're going to be an active investor, then you have to have financial education. And one of the keys to financial education, a lot of people say, well, it takes money to make money. How many people have ever heard that statement? Well, that's absolutely not true, because you'll prove tonight it doesn't take money to get money, to make money. What it begins with is a thing called words or vocabulary. The English language has approximately 2 million words in it. And each of us as individuals, they estimate, has command of about 5,000 words. So one of the ways to start increasing your wealth and your financial ability is change your vocabulary. And one of the reasons my poor dad was poor, as a good man, he had the vocabulary of a school teacher. You know, he thought gerunds and prepositions were really important. But I've never made $1 off a gerund or a preposition yet that I know of, you know. I need the difference between EBITDA, PEs, ROIs, IRRs. That's what makes me rich. So just know that words make you rich, and I'm going to be going into right now the basis of financial education is words. And this here is a thing called a financial statement. As my rich dad often said to me, you know, this is your report card when you grow up. When you leave school, as my rich dad said, his banker has never, ever asked to see his report card yet. You know, a banker never said, tell me what college you went to. Are you an A student? Are you a B student? They never asked that. If you're a professional investor, they will ask you for something called a financial statement. If you're a non-investor or a passive investor, like a 401k, they'll ask you for a credit report. So to begin becoming rich, you must have one of these. I mean, it's a must. These people have credit reports. These people have financial statements. There's very, very big differences here. So let's begin with words here. And one of the biggest words that people have mistaken on the wrong definition for are these words here, assets and liabilities. How many people have ever heard people say, my house is an asset? Good. That's using the wrong definition. That's the problem. So I'll give you the definition my rich dad gave me. You won't find this in the regular dictionary because it's a very simple definition, because this is the guide to wealth. A definition of an asset is something that puts money in your pocket whether you work or not. That's very simply it. Okay? So when you look at this financial statement, this is income statement and balance sheet, and there's one more form that I'm not an accountant, but basic accounting requires. It's called the statement of cash flow. And what that shows you here is this. Assets are putting money in your pocket. So for example, I have a house, and every month, let's say I collect $100 from after paying all my expenses, the house is an asset. But if the house goes unrented, and every month is now costing me money, that same house is a what? Liability. So this is the cash flow pattern of a liability. So when a person says their house is an asset, I then ask them, I say, is that house putting money in your pocket? They say, oh, no, but it's gone up in value. That shows lack of financial intelligence or financial IQ, okay? I'm not saying don't buy a big house. I'm not saying any of that stuff. I'm just saying don't call a liability a what? Asset. And that's the problem, is using the wrong word for the wrong thing here. Or I could have a car. If I use a car as a taxi and every month it put $1,000 in my pocket, it's an asset. But I have my BMW here and it's costing me $1,000 a month, it's a liability. So that's very simply it. So don't call asset or liabilities assets, and that's where people get in trouble. The next thing, like I said, my banker has never asked me for my report card yet, and my banker, if I'm going to borrow a lot of money from them, they want to see my financials. And what a banker is looking for is your financial IQ. They don't care how your academic IQ. They want to see how smart you are with money. And it's not that I wear nice clothes and have a nice watch and have a nice house and a nice car. A banker doesn't care, because how many people know people who are looking good but are flat broke? You know what I'm talking about here? So I mean, that's the big problem here. So when a banker looks at this thing, the banker is looking again at cash flow. So when a banker looks at this, let's say the person has a job, the money comes in and the money goes out. They look at that, that's the cash flow pattern of a poor person. If they don't change their pattern, they'll be poor. It is not how much money you make. It is how much money you spend is the issue here. For example, I have a doctor friend. He makes about $400,000 a year. He's very proud. He has no debts. He's one of those people that think that debt's bad, and that's really moronic. But anyway, but he makes $400,000 and he spends $400,000. So even though he makes a cash flow pattern of a what? Poor person. What the middle class generally tend to do is the first thing they want to do is have a big house, and they have a thing called a mortgage. And the different definition of mortgage comes from the French word mortier, which means death. That's what it means, So what happens, they have a mortgage, got the nice BMW or Mercedes, so they're looking good, but going broke at it and goes, I can see your cash flow pattern is this. And this is the cash flow pattern of the middle class. It's working hard and going broke. They never get ahead. They buy big houses, they do home equity loans, and they think they're Donald Trump with real estate investors. All they got is a big house they're in debt to. A lot of people use their house as an ATM machine. Every time it goes up in value, they borrow the money out. That is really a loser's point of view there. I mean, that's not, bankers love you because you're greatly in debt, but that's not a way to get ahead. And this is the cash flow pattern of a rich person. They have assets here. And so generally what it is they have a business, they have real estate, and they may have dividends from stocks and bonds and stuff like that, which the interest. So those are assets. So oftentimes I ask people, think about it this way. If you stop working today, let's say you're married, you have a spouse, if you stop working today, how much money keeps coming in your pocket? And how much money keeps going out? All the things that are taking money out of your pocket are what? Liabilities. And anything putting money in your pocket is an asset. So the reason my wife and I could retire is very simply we have money going like this. This means we're wealthy. We don't have much in savings and all that, but every month it's hundreds of thousands of dollars going like this. And that's how you get wealthy. Just have assets that produce money every single month. When I did this program in Singapore, I asked people to raise their hand and say, would you mind telling me some of the assets you have? And this woman raised her hand. She says, yes. She says, my best asset is my husband. And I said, ma'am, I'm talking about non-human, inanimate objects. She says, that's him. But he makes lots of money for me. I'm not talking about human beings. Slavery has been abolished for a while here and all this. So everybody understands the difference between assets versus liabilities, the cash flow pattern, and that's why bankers do not ask you for your what? Report card. They want to see your financial statement. If you have a good financial IQ, they'll give you lots of money. If you have a bad financial IQ, they'll give you a credit card or a home equity loan. That's the difference here. And years ago, I went to Sunday school. I'm not a Bible scholar. I'm not pushing religion on anybody. But I remember the story of the rich man. I think he had 3 sons or something like this. And he gave one son X amount of dollars, the second son X amount of talents, he called them, and then the third son talents. And the first son blew it, got rid of all his money. And he said, okay. The second son came in and said, what you do with the money? And the son said, I buried it. And then multiplied it. Came back with, gave him $1,000, came back with $5,000. And at that point, the father, or whoever the guy was, took all of the money and gave it to the what? The third son, who multiplied the money. And that's what I learned in Sunday school is that, not God, but whoever does not like people who blow their money, people who just bury the money. See, the poor spend their money. The middle class bury their money, just put it in 401ks or savings. And the rich know how to multiply their money. So the real key is this. It's not so much how much income you make, but where you put your money. It's expenses. Do you expend your money this way, or this way? And that's why people who are always trying to make more money, they don't get ahead very simply because they're looking in the wrong place. It's over here. It's what do you spend your time and money on? And that's why I thank you guys for being here tonight, and those of you at home supporting public television and your education. You're spending time and hopefully some money to support your education and a great cause here. And that's really important, is how you spend your time and your money. That makes a difference. And then the third thing is this, is just to cover this thing why your house is not an asset, is when your banker says your house is an asset, your banker's not lying to you. This will explain it better, because to understand this, if you have a mortgage, on a balance sheet, it must balance. So if a mortgage is your liability, it has to balance. So your same mortgage is your bank's asset. That's the difference. So that's why your banker says your house is an asset. I'm not saying it's, not lying to you, it's just saying it's not whose asset it is. It's their asset, you know. And the way you know that, again, is assets put money in your pockets and liabilities what? Take money from your pocket. So when you look at this, money comes in, money goes out, goes in here, and comes back here. So it's taking money from your pocket and it's putting money in the bank's pocket. And that is basically, you know, why your banker says your house is an asset. And why it's very important to understand the definition of the word you're using. Don't just use a word, because if you keep saying your house is an asset when it's a liability, or you say your car is an asset when it's really a liability, and your vacation to Hawaii is an asset versus a liability, or your home equity loan is an asset, you're not going to make it. Does that make sense to you guys here? But what most people tell you is this. Repeat after me. Work hard, save money, get out of debt, invest for the long term, and diversify. How many people heard this? Okay? And the reason I bring this up here is that because around 1996, I was watching this very famous morning show, you know, that's broadcast all across the nation, and they had these nice, handsome, you know, couple who were the host and hostess, and they come and say, and today we have the financial expert of all times, and he's going to give us the financial advice for the new year. This is like 1996 or whatever it was, you know. And welcome so-and-so, and they clap, you know, and out comes a financial expert, and he goes, hi, everybody. What I recommend for this year, 1997, is work hard, save money, get out of debt. I can't even do it straight. Invest for the long term and diversify. And the host go, oh, that is so brilliant. Oh, thank you for your infinite wisdom on this. On financial, we thank you. The next year, they invite them back, same thing. And for the new year, I recommend you guys what? Work hard, save money, get out of debt, invest for the long term, and diversify. And the host and hostess, oh, I can't believe, what a genius, what a financial genius. Just give him a hand. I can't believe it. Every year, same guy, same message, same advice. They think it's brilliant. Then after 2000, the stock market started to crash. And they bring the same expert on, and he comes on, and what I recommend is work hard, save money, get out of debt, invest for the long term, and diversify. And the market kept crashing. And he kept giving the same advice. And this is what I want to say about that advice. Between the year 2000 and 2004, millions of small investors lost an estimated $7 to $9 trillion. At the same time, Wall Street paid some of its biggest bonuses out. And this is the advice they were giving people here. I want to say to you, this advice used to work. It doesn't work today. I'm not saying it's bad advice. I'm just saying it used to work. After 1974, it started to change. And what I'm going to be going into is how that change came about and why people are getting in trouble following this advice, especially this one here. Because you're going to find out the most risky of all investments are savings, stocks, bonds, and mutual funds. They are the riskiest of all investments. But most people think they're safe. And that's what you'll find out, and that's why I thank public television for allowing me to say what I'm going to say, because there's many people, as I said, in organizations who do not want me to tell you what I'm about to tell you, and all the little people they hire who are financial experts, but they're not really financial experts. Do you realize most of financial experts are not I's, they're really E's and S's. They're salespeople. And I'll be going into some of those differences. Okay? So I know I'm an investor very simply because I live by my income on my investments. I don't live by my commissions. And there's a very big difference there. So going into it, the reason work hard is obsolete advice is because in 1943, the U.S. government punished anybody who was an employee. After 1943 was a thing called the Current Tax Payment Act. At that point, anybody who was an employee, the government got paid first. How many of you ever opened up your paycheck and gone, what happened to my money? That was 1943. So the problem with being an employee and working hard is the more you work and the more money you make, you go up in tax brackets. So you don't get ahead. These guys here are taxed heavily These guys have all the tax loopholes. That's why I can make a lot of money legally. The difference is I'm on this side here, but our school system teaches us to be this side. In 1986, they passed the 86 Tax Reform Act, and they taxed all doctors, lawyers, all the A students. They nailed them. And so, well, the attorneys I don't mind, but anyway. But what happened here is this, is that guys like me, you know, the C students, we can make more money and pay less taxes than the A students, which proves there's a God somewhere. The next thing is save money. The reason save money is an obsolete idea is because in 1971, a man named President Nixon took us off what's called the gold standard, or the Bretton Woods Agreement. And at that point, what happened in 1971, money turned into a currency. So what you started to save after 1971 was not money but a currency. And the problem with a currency is the government can print it faster than you can save it. And the other thing about this, if you understand economics, especially Keynesian economics, is that when you look at a dollar, a currency, let's say this is $1 and this is 40 years here, a currency is designed to go down to 5 cents over 40 years. A currency is designed to lose money so the government can keep running up debt. That's the reason. So they can print it faster than you can save it. That's the big problem with it. The next thing is this. If you look at the real stats, is this. And that's the reason I don't save money. If you look at this in the last few years, like I said, 1995 to 2005, what's happened is the dollar has gone this way, and the way you know how much is lost is gold went from $250 up to $500 in the same time. That means your dollar lost 50%. It lost 50% of its buying power. And the banks are paying you 1% interest. Tell me that's smart to save money. That's why the debtors started to win, because what was happening is this was going up and all this. And the reason this happens is for one very big, well, this is not the only thing. It's not just gold, because I can hear the economist going, he doesn't know what he's talking about. Well, I'm not saying I'm an economist. I'm saying just look at the price of gold. It takes twice as many dollars to buy the same amount today. But not only that, my father's house, which he purchased in, I think, 1965 or something, he paid $50,000 for it and took $5 million. It's the same house. So it means the purchasing power of the dollar went where? Down. The house didn't go up in value. Your dollar went down. And the other thing the economists say, well, that's not really a good indicator. But look at this. In 1995, oil was about 10 bucks. Today it's 60 bucks. So that means your dollar you need $6 more to purchase the same amount of oil. And then the economists say, well, oil doesn't affect inflation. I'm going, they want you to believe that investing is risky. How many people have heard investing is risky? Good. What this section is about of this program is how risk isn't anything but lack of control. The number one difference between an active investor and a passive investor is the subject of control. So what I'm going to show you tonight is how what I do as an active investor is I want control. If I have control, I don't have any what? Risk. And that's the difference. So using a metaphor that most of us can understand, over here we have, an example of a car. Okay. Now, how many people realizing there's risk driving a car? Good. But car driving doesn't have to be risky. Like those guys want you to believe investing is risky. So some of the controls, the 6 controls a car must have, number 1 is a steering wheel, right? How many people would not buy a car if it had no steering wheel? Good, you know what I mean? So let me sit down here like this. So I sit down, I get in my car, and control number 1 I want to check on is I have a steering wheel. Control number 2, gas pedal. Now you have a gas pedal, you better have some what? Brakes. How many people have ever driven a car without brakes, You don't need coffee for about 6 weeks after that. And then you have a forward and reverse, gear shift like this. And the other thing you also have to have is a driver's license for driver's ed, and you have to have insurance. So if I'm driving down the road, doing a little bit too fast, I hear the bing, 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 and the cop pulls me over, a policeman pulls me over. What's the first thing a policeman asks me for? Driver's license and proof of what? Insurance. How many people would not let somebody who was uninsured drive your car? How many people would not let somebody who had no driver's ed drive your car? You know what I mean? That's stupid. But that's what investors are doing. They're actually investing in savings, stocks, bonds, mutual funds with no control. And what happens? That's like going like this. And that's why they think it's risky. Now, this is the worst part. Guess who else has no control? Your financial advisor. Your financial advisor. Diversify, diversify, diversify. Or what they do is this, is they go, I predict that, I predict this, I predict that. That's the kind of financial advice most people are getting. That's risky. That's not what I do. I want control. So, let me help get out of this wreck right now. So when I'm as an investor, I want 6 controls too. If a car has 6 controls, I want 6 controls as an investor. Control number 1, you look on the screen over here, is I want control of my income. Control number 2, expenses. 3 is asset value. 4 is liability. 5 is I want financial education or management. And 6 is I want insurance. Those are the 6 controls I want as an active investor. So when we come back, what I'm going to talk about is one of the ways to get rich is find that native genius that's well inside each and every one of us. And that's what the next section is about. Thank you very much.